The Overflow.
We are on the Overflow. So I don't fully remember what we were talking about just before.
We're talking about the dogs and giraffes can play.
Oh yeah, like just the idea of just because it's not explicitly said in the rules doesn't mean it's something you can do.
Yeah. I love the idea of that. Of like, it's a law. It's not a law yet.
Yeah,
because the airplanes are too new.
Fucking, but honestly, yeah. No, going back to it, fucking Air Bud. What a hell of an old reference, right? Like,
yeah,
that.
I'm bringing up the Miranda thing too because I was like, that just hit me. That I wanted to know what. So it's from a 1966 case where there's a Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution restricts prosecutors from using a person's statement made in response to interrogation from the police unless they can show that the person was informed of their right to consult an attorney before and during questioning, and of the right against self-incrimination before police questioning, and that the defendant not only understood these rights but voluntarily waived them. So basically, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you said can be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you do not have an attorney, we can appoint one to you. And that was called Miranda. It was called Miranda warnings or Mirandizing, and it comes from this case Miranda versus Arizona in 1966. So, it's actually when Lyndon B. Johnson was president, so that makes sense because he would have been there. Ernesto Miranda was arrested by the Phoenix Police Department based on circumstantial evidence linking him to a kidnapping or rape of an 18-year-old woman 10 days earlier. After 2 hours of interrogation by police officer, he signed a confession to the rape charges on forms that included a typed statement, "I do hereby swear that I make this statement of voluntary and of free will, with no threats, coercion, or promise of immunity, and with full knowledge of my legal rights, understanding my statement." But he wasn't given any of his right. He wasn't told of his right to counsel. So they couldn't prove that he had been given a right to counsel, and he signed a confession, and then that's where he went back on this and was like, so it got overturned because of that, I'm guessing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what that whole Miranda thing. But Ernesto Miranda.
Yes. Not Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
Your fucking face. Oh, yeah,
Sure,
of course,
whatever.
sure, yeah. I don't know.
I totally know what you're talking about.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But yeah. So that blows me away too. That it took till 1966 for them to be like, yeah, it's not fair if you don't tell him that he has a right to things.
Yeah.
Like, we all need to know our rights and
read him his rights.
What I love is that even in this day and age, people are like trying to be like, well, I wasn't re-Mirandized in the middle of this. And you'd be like, yeah, but it didn't stop. So you started talking.
Yeah, there's a limit.
Yeah, you started talking, and then you're mad because partway through you talking, they weren't like, when you started getting to the illegal activities, they weren't like, and you know your rights, right? Yeah. You already were told about your rights at the beginning of you talking. Like,
there's not a timer in the corner. It's like, read his rights. Here's blah, 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 blah.
20 minutes is up. Let's do it again. You have the right to remain silent. Or just one police officer is constantly stating it. You have the right to remain silent. You have a right as you're talking about
like
it.
He says it like he's a priest praying in the background for an exorcist. You have the right to remain silent. Yeah. Like magic spell circles. I've been watching too much anime.
Yeah. I love the idea of that. Just some guy in the... Who's he? He's giving you a Miranda warning. So I never said you were right.
And he has like the two fingers up, like it's like in an anime prayer. The spell circle constantly reminds the person in their head
Yeah.
their rights.
They're just constantly like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah.
What I love is that they're
not annoyed by it either. That's my favorite part of that way you did it. It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh man, I almost forgot.
I really shouldn't be talking about this. One of my favorite things, though, is that I was working on a case for the show not too long ago where the guy was like, "What? I didn't know I could stop in the middle of it. We have the right to remain silent. So if you start, you can stop at any point and be like, I need a fucking lawyer or I'm not doing this anymore." Like, no, I started talking. I gotta keep fucking going now. I can't not tell them things.
Yeah, like, he just runs out of confession and he just keeps talking anyway. It's just like, well, back when I was 6, and like, dude, just stop talking. No, I do not. I started talking. I gotta keep going. I lost my right to remain silent.
Yeah, I already violated my right to remain silent, so I might as well just keep going. But no, what I mean more is like he was talking about the case, and then as it got close to the point of his interaction in this whole thing, he's already put himself at the scene. That's where you should go. That's where most people who don't want to keep going would realize that, oh, if I continue, I've already incriminated myself by putting myself at the scene. But if I just keep giving them evidence, it's just going to make their case stronger. However, he just kept going because he didn't really, because in his mind, I've already waived my right to remain silent, so I can't not talk about the rest of the shit I did. I gotta just keep going.
I love the idea, too, that in his mind, he's like, man, I did something against the law, but it's against the law to stop talking now. Yeah.
I can't. I already waived my right, and, so if I just stop talking, that's against the law.
Yeah.
Like, these guys
already in deep shit.
These guys are going to be super disappointed. I love that idea, too. Like, because part of when they interrogate you is that they try to, like, make it seem like they're on, like, we're all friends here.
Yeah.
We're trying to work. Maybe you didn't mean to kill your wife. Maybe it was an accident. You know what? I hit my kids too when they get out of line. Maybe you didn't mean to hit them that hard. Just try to give you an out so that when you go, okay, yeah, it was an accident. I did it. Yeah, okay, I did it. It was an accident or whatever. Now they got you. Now, but you did put a lot of force into that, man. And we're all guys here. Like, we get it.
Whoa! I'm not a guy.
No, I get that. But what I mean is,
this was an example. Whoa, you were selling it well. I thought I was an interrogation. I just admitted to murder I didn't even do.
How did I don't have any kids.
Oh man.
Wes's whole world just got all shifted around.
I don't even have any kids anymore.
They're totally not, held in a cellar somewhere.
Having their little limbs become dangly and nice tender meat.
You say that, but I have a whole case about a guy in Russia who made dolls out of kids' corpses. So
you don't even have to say about that. We fucking did Albert Fish a couple of weeks ago.
We also did Carl Tanzler.
Yeah, you're like, don't laugh. I have something in the future. No, we have a few things in the past.
It's funny because this episode I was actually going to do Andre Chikatilo, but I was like, we already did one serial killer that was very focused on children, so like let's give it a little. Like,
does that guy make chicken?
I wish. That would have been amazing.
That's a fried chicken.
Chikatilo?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he was a Ukrainian serial killer.
Oh. Yeah, I know a thing or two about Ukrainians, trust me.
So do I.
Oh, yeah.
Nana's Ukrainian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking knew that.
Yeah. It's a good bit.
But no, I do love that in interrogation, they try to be like your friend, and then they get all pissed off later when they're like, well, I told them that because they were like telling me to like, yeah, but you fell for it. Or they lied to me. They are allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to leave the room, come back and be like, we have all this DNA evidence. And if you go, well, fuck, I guess I'm caught, they could have nothing, but now they have it all. Like,
it's funny because like even though as unrealistic as like most cop shows are, one of the things I've always seen in interrogations is they're always like, let's get him before the lawyer shows up type of thing, and that's why. Yep. Because the lawyer will explain, no, they're lying.
What I love is this too. If you're sitting there and you ask for a lawyer and they go, okay, and so you stop talking, they keep it recording, and then people get pissed off because they're like, well, I asked for a lawyer. Yeah, but then you kept talking. That doesn't mean that you asked for a lawyer and now you gotta shut the fuck up. You can't just be like, yeah, but when my lawyer gets here, I'm not fucking telling you that I did this. Like, no, I asked for my lawyer. Yeah, but you fucking kept talking, man.
Yeah, what? You just said, oh. Never mind.
Fuck, I got that on tape and everything, but I can't fucking use it because your lawyer's not here.
Yeah, oh, jeez. You know, if this goes into court, I'm going to spend 5 hours cross-examining myself.
One of my favorite stories ever that I've ever read, and it's great because it's in the homicide book, and they're trying to interrogate this couple, and they decide that they give them a lie detector test. Because the woman's adopted brother vanished. So what they did was they wrote on the top. So they wrote on the inside of a Xerox machine, truth or lie. And so what they would do is would just say lie. And so they'd make you put your hand on the Xerox machine and say that it's a lie detector.
They just print the word lie.
They would hit the thing while they're asking you a question, and you'd answer, and they'd hit the thing and print out lie. And then the person be like, and so the woman in this falls for it, gives up the whole thing. So then they bring the boyfriend in, and he looks at what they're doing, and he puts his hand down on it, he Xerox it, and he goes, "This is a photocopier." Yeah, but your girlfriend gave you up. Fuck. I love the idea that she is so lost to how lie detectors work. And all I can think to myself is, wouldn't you know walking in that that's a Xerox machine?
Yeah.
The fuck a photocopier. Like, the fuck you doing? Like,
how early was this? Like
1990s, man.
Jesus.
Fucking.
If it was like the early eras when the thing was just starting to get made, I could believe it because you've never seen it. Yeah. But the technology could be so advanced you just don't understand it. Like, but like the 90s.
Yeah, but by this point you've seen these scenes in some sort of like. You've seen it in a TV show that they like hook up a bunch of electrons and
electrons.
Sorry. They broke down an atom.
We in science have learned how to figure out how someone's lying, but we need to figure it out on the microscopic level.
Every answer you give gives just a little bit of spittle. We can break it down. And in the electron.
I love you just chiseled out of microscopic.
Bang! Here we go! It says lie. It says lie, and they pull up the zero. I love that he's like a magician, he just pulls it out of nowhere. Ha!
Oh God!
What is your name? Truth. What is your age? 27. Lie. How are you doing this?
It's the Adams.
I was trained by the wizard.
The Wizard of CCC.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was on the town council.
So you know he was good.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my face hurts. That was dumb as fuck.
But yeah. Yes, in the 90s you've seen these shows and stuff and you know what it consists of.
Electrons.
What I love is I used to have this thing because lie detector, so like polygraph tests are not admissible in court anymore.
Yeah, because they're not reliable. Yeah.
So what I love is when TV shows like Maury use it, and they're like, "That's a lie," and you're like, "Okay, first of all, it's not admissible in court, so this isn't a foolproof plan." Especially when they bring the guy out and he's like, "I have been doing lie detectors for this long. It is 99% no."
It's like, what, 50, maybe 40% accurate?
It's 52% accurate.
Yeah.
So, and it's all based on how you feel. You can cheat the system by simply, like, controlling your breathing and your heart rate. And
if you're a decent actor, it means nothing.
Go the other way. If you come in nervous and you stay nervous throughout the entire thing, they can't get a baseline. So you just answer the questions, even if answering the questions is having to like pinch yourself or something, have a pair of tweezers just in your in your pocket or something like that. I almost got lost there. I was trying to stay up your sleeve.
With the Xerox.
Go to pull the tweezers and I lie. Damn it! How do you do this?
Oh my God, can we make the lie detector magician one of our characters?
I'm totally down for that.
I love the lie detector magician. Lies!
I just love it because he's
like, people might argue, oh, you're just saying like The Mentalist or Psych. I'm like, no, he's like a children's magician with a top hat and a cape and everything. And he
pulls the hat off his head. What's your name?
Lies.
Yeah. Has a fucking deck of cards.
I like the idea. What's your name? Pulls a rabbit out of the hat. It's a rabbit. I know, but look in the rabbit. And he opens the rabbit, opens up as a zipper. Lies!
Yes, the rabbit.
Oh.
Fucking release doves. They have like they have pieces of paper.
They go into a formation that spells out lie.
I love this idea.
The lie detector magician, like this is.
I want this TV show.
This is like a cartoon show that you see on fucking Adult Swim. Like,
it's something that happened in Rick and Morty. Like,
very, very Rick and Morty. As did you post the pictures of the characters I made?
I haven't put them up yet.
No. Okay. So there's a website design called Hero Forge. This is towards the audience because you already know about it. And I've successfully. It's where you can make miniatures for your D&D characters and everything. And I have.
I love this idea now.
I have officially. He's gonna come up so often.
Amazing.
I know. And I made three of our characters: Bernard, the Batoot, Frederick, and Reginald, the fish. And I made them in this thing. So I have like little models that I gave pictures to Ben, and Ben is going to put those onto Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah,
probably both.
Put them on all social media.
Yeah. So like look out for those. But I'm probably also going to be making the lie detector magician, because fucking right I am. Why wouldn't I have the lie detector
I now
magician?
have him pictured in my head with the fucking the Phantom Barber. I fucking
See, I want to do the Phantom Barber, but it's like some of those characters are just so generic.
yeah.
Like the lie detector magician, there's so much I can do with that. The Phantom Barber is just like, it's just Danny DeVito, maybe in a sweater vest. I don't know.
I love this idea of somebody trying to pull tweezers out of the what's this piece of paper? Lies. Fuck.
Lie detector magician.
Oh no, we're done here. But you should check behind your ear. Lies.
Damn it! You're guilty. Fuck!
Yeah. How did you do this? I'm not even in the same room as you.
A magician never reveals his secrets.
Yeah.
Lies.
Yeah.
No, that one would have been, he has the wand. Truth.
Yeah.
Like, his wand is the Xerox and it just prints out the word truth.
He just puts his hands here and it's like...
Oh, fuck.
That's a brilliant idea.
I love this character so much. He's definitely gonna come back. I can almost guarantee it.
I love that we came up with him outside
Of an episode, yeah, like, so people might not get it because they might not have seen the Overflow, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll try to sneak it in if we can.
I'm gonna try and put this Overflow out first before anything else.
Yeah. Fucking, so, a little side topic I want to bring up. So, you're familiar with Smash Bros., right?
Yep.
Did you know that Cartoon Network made a Smash Brothers style game with all of their characters?
No.
It came out a little while ago. I think it was on the 3DS, and then they made a second version that was better, and the Wii and the 360.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't do well. It was poorly made. All that sort of stuff. I'm realizing I'm getting really quiet for once, and I'm not liking that, but I don't know how well that comes out. But the reason I bring that up is just recently they announced fucking Nickelodeon is doing their own Smash Bros. Thing. And they already, like, confirmed, like, 14 characters, and it's being done by a reputable company that makes Smash clones. And I was saying, like, Jesus, that's really fucking cool. Like,
Yeah.
did you grow up with a lot of Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network?
I know that I grew up with quite a bit of like I grew up with Rugrats, and SpongeBob came when I was going into high school.
Yeah.
There's other shows like Rocko's Modern Life, things like that. So there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
They come from YTV.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which is a channel we get here in Canada Town, USA.
Yeah, well, we share it with Canada.
Yeah, exactly. We get all our cable from Canada.
Yeah.
Don't ask how that works. So, like, in this type of idea, like, would you be interested in something like that?
Yeah. It might be interesting to see.
Like, what kind of characters are you hoping to see?
Definitely want to see SpongeBob and Patrick, because I think that's going to be, like, epic, and I think it would be in, like, their superhero forms.
Okay.
Oh my god. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boys. Like, for sure. Like, the old version, I think that'd be entertaining as fuck. Like,
You know that it won't happen because
I
of
know.
Ernest Borgnine.
I know.
Like, actually, I should be, like, telling you what the full roster is before this comes out, because clearly you had no idea that this was a thing. So, like, other people might know about this, and they're going to be like, well, that character's already in. What the fuck? So I have them right here.
All right.
So the currently confirmed roster is Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Nigel Thornberry from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy.
Oh my god!
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Okay.
Sandy Cheeks.
Of course.
Patrick Star.
Of course.
Oblina. Real Monsters.
Okay.
Lucy Loud.
I don't know who that is.
These are part of the these two are from one of the newer Nickelodeon shows, so I wouldn't be surprised you didn't know it because I barely knew about them. But Lucy Loud and Lincoln Loud from the Loud House. Helga from Hey Arnold.
Okay.
Reptar.
Nice.
Yeah. Zim of Invader Zim. And Danny Phantom.
Okay. I can see those ones. I think, like, what's his name from Fairly Odd Parents?
Timmy Turner.
No.
Jorgen?
Yes. I was trying to think. I was like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. But
yeah,
Jorgen. I think that should be one for sure.
Honestly, I'm surprised that Fairly Odd Parents wasn't one of the first announced, because that's like their second longest running series.
Yeah.
Next to SpongeBob, so.
And if SpongeBob is in it, then I can't see why you wouldn't put like Timmy Turner or like somebody from. And Danny Phantom, like Danny Phantom's in it. Yes, he was a superhero, like.
Yeah.
But why not have like somebody from the Fairly Odd Parents in there? Like
exactly. What some of the especially because of Butch Hartman and all that. But like I agree. Like fucking Fairly Odd Parents, one of 3 of Nickelodeon's longest running series, which includes SpongeBob at the top, Fairly Odd Parents, and then Rugrats.
Yeah.
But another one that I'm surprised wasn't announced right off the bat, like they're probably saving it for a bit, was Avatar and Legend of Korra.
That's true.
Like, not only are these prized Nickelodeon shows, but they're actually fighters.
Yeah, they're full-on martial artists.
Yeah.
So, like, it would make fucking sense.
There's also, like, a sort of leak that came out where it was the cover art, but it was all in silhouettes.
Yeah.
And so people have already depicted, like, 4 or 5 characters that might be already in the game.
Yeah.
Which include Ren, Stimpy, Cat Dog,
okay,
Aang, and Korra.
Okay, so it's very possible that they're already in there.
Yeah, like it. Honestly, I can't imagine them making a fighting game without those characters.
I also can't see them doing it without like an actual like the villains of it as well, like Zuko and things like that. Even though Zuko's not entirely a villain, he's an antagonist for sure.
Yeah. He's a turnaround. Spoiler if you hadn't watched this 10-year-old show.
Yeah.
But like there are a lot of shows that obviously they're gonna get pull from that have like good fighters, like My Life as a Teenage Robot and El Tigre, which was like a superhero-esque show. I'm
surprised the Ripping Brothers aren't on there.
It was not owned by Nickelodeon.
It wasn't?
That was Teletoon.
Okay.
That was Canadian only, and but it was made from the same dude who made Ren and Stimpy, obviously. But those guys are not owned by Nickelodeon.
Okay. There's also, it's funny, I don't know if this was owned by Nickelodeon, Mega Babies?
Was not.
No. Damn it. I always thought that these were like Nickelodeon shows that were like produced.
I have no idea who owns Mega Babies, but I think that's also a Canadian show.
It's very hard to find anything at all for them online. Like you can find small videos of them and stuff like that.
No, I found the whole series.
Did you?
Yeah, I'll show you the website once we're done. Because I love this website.
Okay.
Like, it's not the best quality, but if you want your mega babies, this is as
No, it's
close
because
as-
Lana the one day was talking about them, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember that show. And she's like, I think Rumor would get a kick out of them, and I was like, I could see that.
Fucking right. Well, I will definitely hook you up with that. But yeah, no, it's funny. Like, it's hard not to associate those with Nickelodeon because they kind of displayed the Nickelodeon brand of being kind of like gross and slime and shit like that.
Oh my god. No, O is only owned by a Canadian thing.
Yeah,
only.
that was YTV.
They had an Americanized version though.
I think so, but it was not Nickelodeon.
No.
Here's the thing, though. These are Nicktoons.
Yes.
So they probably wouldn't do... Because Nickelodeon has a whole bunch of fucking live-action sitcoms and stuff like that. So we're not going to see, like, iCarly versus Drake and Josh. And
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Funny story. Did you hear the news about those?
What?
The dark storyline, not the dark storyline, but the dark news about that.
Drake.
Not even that.
No.
It has nothing to do with the actors. The guy who produced iCarly, Drake and Josh, Victorious, like all of their live action sitcoms, Dan Schneider, he has been completely separated from Nickelodeon. Like Nickelodeon have removed him from this thing because he is like first off, there are several signs of horrible abuse to the child actors, but he also had an extreme foot fetish that he constantly wrote into his scripts. So if you watch like iCarly and stuff like that, there are these weird scenes where like the female characters would always have their bare feet out in some regard. And like there are horror stories as to why to some of those actors who couldn't deal with his shit, like Ariana Grande, who's a famous one. She was one of the victims of his shit. Jeannie McCurdy, which is Sam from iCarly. This is a weird thing for 30-year-olds to be talking about, but anyway, this was a big part of why she left acting altogether, was part of this Dan Schneider thing, on top of the fact that she never really had a real childhood, but like...
Yeah.
So it was a really serious big deal that happened.
No, I never heard those ones. I know that, I think it's Drake. I think it's Drake Bell got convicted of child pornography or something.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I think it was Josh. It might have been Josh.
Maybe. Child endangerment. Drake Bell.
It was Drake Bell?
Drake Bell. He pleaded guilty to attempted child endangerment. So yeah, he pleaded guilty to child endangerment and disseminating matters harmful to juveniles. He did that in June.
Josh, this year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Josh Pett called him out. That's weird.
I did not know that. So that's like really, really new too.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say,
that's fucked up though. He only got 2 years probation for it.
What's really weird is because like the last job he was a voice in Kingdom Hearts 3, which was not that long ago. So it threw me off when you said that.
Yeah.
Actually, if we're on the topic of terrible former children-oriented entertainers, here's one that was really interesting to me. Is the guy who made Ren and Stimpy was basically he was a pedophile, he actually dated a 16-year-old for a period of time, or allegedly, I should say. But and he was like sleeping with her and everything. And when he got called out and whatnot, he wrote an apology. But the big apology was just, "Hey, I have ADHD, so I have no self-control."
Yeah, he was accused by 2 former artists of grooming and sexually abusing them in the late 1990s when they were teenagers. Released an apology for his behavior, blaming his mental health and poor impulse control. He declared his withdrawal from the professional animation industry, which is also why he's not involved with the new Ren and Stimpy remakes.
Exactly. I honestly, that one hit me really personally, just because not only did he do something horrible, but he blamed his ADHD.
Yeah.
And
it says here he said that it was motivated by undiagnosed bipolar and attention deficit disorder to have poor impulse control.
Yeah, and like, I've met people who use their disabilities as an excuse. Like, oh, I can do anything because it was my disability. It's like, no, you may have a disorder of such, but you have to learn to work with it and deal with it. Like, if you're not, then that's still on you.
A big one that I remember got me was Lost Prophets lead singer, when he got arrested and sentenced for, at concerts, he would tell security to bring certain girls back to the room, back to the dressing room, and he would like have sex with them in the dressing room or on his bus, and that most of them were under the age of 15. And I remember when he got arrested and then charged, like he got arrested, charged, and sentenced, like convicted and sentenced for it. And I was like, I really liked them as a band, and I was like, can't ever listen to them again, because especially because a lot of his songs are about forbidden loves or finding love on the road.
Ooh.
Like,
so like there's almost, so now that the context has taken form, like it's one thing if it's like you reread your Harry Potter books and
realize that it was written by somebody who's so
like, but the thing is with Harry Potter, there's still not that much like discrimination. Like, it's almost in the vein of promoting acceptance for the most part.
Yeah, it's weird how her thing is about breaking down those differences. However, she is very bigoted. And then people try to argue that she's not bigoted, because that she's not prejudiced at all, because all she was saying was that somebody who is a trans female should not be taking jobs from real females. And I was like, yeah, but that's the point.
Yeah, like there's also this like there's also this delusion where she thinks she's also trying to correct a scientific inaccuracy.
Yeah.
Like scientifically it doesn't make sense. You're not a woman, type of thing. And it's like, no, that's not.
And she's donated money and supports an organization that is dedicated to proving that those are not true things, and that every member of the LGBTQ, like, so homosexuality, bisexuality, all that kind of stuff, is actually still a choice. It's not a. Yeah, it's weird. It's so.
And it's such, and that's why it's like, that's why I was trying to compare it with the thing you're talking about. His songs literally described what he did.
Yeah. And
then you look at Harry Potter, and it is like the opposite. And in fact, there was a report that I once read that said people who grew up with Harry Potter were less likely to be discriminatory because of the fact that the book had such a strong message of acceptance.
Like, I have such a hard time. So I liked Harry Potter. I wasn't like a super fan like a lot of my friends were, but I liked Harry Potter. And I thought it was a good story. It was well written. It was well done. And then when she did that, it hurt a little bit to be like, okay, well, I'm not supporting anything Harry Potter anymore. Like, I'm not supporting her. I'm not giving her money anymore. And then I remember Lana has all of the Harry Potter books, and I bought one off of eBay because she found in one of the book boxes 6 of the novels, but not the first one. And
let me just point out, if you buy it used because you enjoy the story, that money does not get to the creator.
Yeah, it's already been given to the creator by somebody else.
Yeah.
So you're not actually handing money to her again. It's not like she's getting more money from this. Whereas if I went to frickin', I don't know, Barnes & Noble and bought it, well, then she gets a proceed of that. But it's the same thing with, like, if you have the DVD copies and you buy them or borrow them off of a friend or something like that, you're not giving back into her structure. It's already been bought somewhere else down the line.
Exactly. So if you want to read these stories and you don't want to support these horrible people, because as we've heard many times, sometimes bad people do make good points. If you want to read these books, go for it, but buy used, so that way they don't get the money and you still get the actual literary goodness that came with it.
They don't benefit from your benefit.
Exactly. I also added another point there. It's actually funny that we bring that up too, is WB Entertainment announced that they were making like a Hogwarts video game where you get to make your own person and everything. And what's funny is, like, they like genuinely said they did a lot of statements on the fact that she's not involved with the game, and then a lot of people have now been making fun of the fact that, oh man, she must hate the fact that there's a game where you choose your gender. Yeah.
So weird thing though that happened recently, and actually somebody we know. Somebody we know. I'm just gonna go with the letter J.
Okay.
I think you know who that is.
I know a lot of J's. I begin with a J.
So
no, it's fine. Just go with J.
So J, she sells Scentsy.
She sells seashells?
Yeah. So she sells Scentsy. And Scentsy is currently doing a Harry Potter scents. And the proceeds are licensed, so they do go to her own estate. So she gains money out of this. So when Jay posted it on Facebook that these were available for sale and people were purchasing them, I made the point of, please, like, everybody please realize that what you are doing is you are getting things that this isn't Harry Potter. This isn't a real thing from the Harry Potter world. But you're helping to sponsor and support someone who is very bigoted. Now, Jay is her and her husband are very deep into the LGBTQ community. In fact, her husband once served as a council member for the LGBTQ of the North Bay district. Okay. So they should be very supportive of that and very much anti this. Well, money speaks more to them than that, and she removed my comment and then posted a following status being like, because of the fact that some people can't mind their own business, if you want Harry Potter things, please message me directly. Oof. So I have other friends who sell Scentsy, and when this came up, they put in no orders for them. Refused any orders that came forward. I actually have a friend who vehemently lectured people that tried to order these Harry Potter scents, despite being a Harry Potter fan herself, but because she understands the gravity of these statements.
You know, there's an interesting thing to look at here is I find there's a lot of when you look at people who are trying to be like social justice warriors and stuff like that, they always look at the things of, oh, this white actor is voicing a black character in a cartoon. Oh, this actor did blackface like thousands of years ago when they didn't realize it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
Or the joke was that it was a bad thing, and there was a parody on that concept. And those little comments do nothing to help the system.
Yeah.
Those do nothing to prevent problems like this. Not supporting J.K. Rowling, that is a scenario where it makes sense you don't want to support her getting this money, because she is actually and actively using that money to harm the social groups in that system. So, like, this it's actually, I just want to bring this up because, like, I'm on very two sides about explaining how to look at, like, social justice and how you properly should approach it. And one of the things you really shouldn't go about doing is trying to censor art.
Yes.
It's censoring art isn't, because a lot of the time the art isn't actually offensive, it's making fun of or pointing out what is already bad.
Yes.
But where Harry Potter is something that's inherently good, just created by a bad person, and there's a weird reflex in that where it's the opposite. It's so
hard to be a fan of that thing, but then also know that if I'm giving money to this, she's giving money to somebody else who's going to try and take away. And that's where I always... So, there's been a lot of jokes recently about the whole trans women being able to compete in women's sports in the Olympics. There's a huge thing about this. I'm actually in favor of it, and I understand the argument of, okay, but if they were born biologically male, they are, for the most part, males are biologically designed to be stronger, faster, things like that. But there's a lot of females that are just as strong. I used to work with a bunch of them that could lift things just as well as I could, like, no issues. But I understand that there's this
Not to mention, like, the hormone treatments would, unless they're not taking their hormone treatments, that would probably lessen all the aspects of them being a male.
And that's part of the problem, too, is that people are being like, well, it's not like they're testing them for, like, these hormone things, so any guy that just wants to be really good at a sport could just join up. But I don't think that's a really fair scenario.
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'm like 200 something pounds and fairly weighty. I'm gonna just join the female Olympics, claiming I'm a woman. I'm totally gonna totally win.
And then afterwards, be like, I decided I'm actually male. Like, come on. It's funny because I've been recently rewatching Futurama. Yeah. And there's that episode where Bender changes his gender to be able to compete in a women's sport and gets a gold medal.
Yeah.
And all that. And that whole episode is based around the fact that this is such a ridiculous notion to do it because it's not realistic.
Yeah, anything that could be designed as a plot point in a sitcom is a ridiculous notion.
What used to get me was the whole, we can't let trans women into regular women washrooms. That whole argument, because, well, then any guy could just walk in there and be a perv and, like, claim that they're just a trans woman. Those doors don't... It's not like the women's washroom sign keeps men out anyways.
Yeah, not to mention, there are women who'll just be pervs anyway.
Yeah.
And do the exact same thing. Like, your whole shtick is not, like, limited by gender. You're gonna have the worst people on both ends. I could go into a male bathroom and still have a pervy male guy watch me do shit. That, well, not literally.
Yeah.
And it's still the same problem.
None of it, like, it's an argument that doesn't make any sense. And it's the same thing as this. So, like, I understand what you're saying. Like, part of my thing, too, is that, like, we are a very sensitive society now. And it's because our culture kind of ebbs and flows that way. There's times where we're really about like, oh my god, this is all like we should really be pushing for these things, and then there's other times where we're like, we're more conservative. We're like, whatever, and it's just how it goes. And right now we're in one of those flows of like everything that should be righted should be righted. Like,
the problem is, I think it's gotten a lot worse than other times, just because the public that is acting this way have become way too black and white.
Yes.
They see the surface level problem of it, and then they never do the critical thinking of looking deeper. And so you get a level of ignorance that happens on both the left and the right that cause these problems.
And my biggest thing, too, is, for instance, the Aunt Jemima changeover and the Uncle Ben changeover.
Yeah.
These companies that own these products decided that these were outdated and went, you know what? These were made during a racist time. We need to revolutionize it and make it into something more modern. And that's a great thing, and that's the thing that a company decided. It wasn't a bunch of people crying in the background being like, this is fucking unfair. It's, no, we realize now, like, we realize just that it's not the way the product should be right now. Canceling Pepe Le Pew. There wasn't an outcry to cancel Pepe Le Pew. There's actually more of an outcry to not cancel him.
There's actually more of an outcry to cancel Speedy Gonzalez.
Yes!
From white people, and the Mexicans are like, no, we love Speedy Gonzalez. Fuck you!
But no, there's this whole thing of like, when Pepe Le Pew was not included in Space Jam 2, and WB was like, we're discontinuing the character, a lot of people were like, you can't just cancel him, like he was pursuing the same woman. And all I could think to myself, I remember talking to a friend of mine at work, a female friend of mine, who was like, well, I don't agree with it, like he's a romantic character. I'm like, really? So some guy was stalking you everywhere you went, was in a disguise, could break into your house. It didn't matter what corner you went around. You didn't know where he would pop up from. He's always, and he's, as soon as he's in your, like within your realm, he grabs you and kisses you. That's romantic?
Honestly, it's also funny that she says that, because that isn't even the intention of the character. It was to make fun of the French. Yeah. And the idea that the French will fuck anything.
Yeah.
It was actually a, I don't want to say racist, because that's not accurate.
It was a culturally
racist thing. You know what I'm trying to say.
A culturally prejudiced character.
Yeah. That was the goal, is to just make fun of the French and how they do this. And like, there is this satisfying moment at one point where the cat gets the paint removed, and then Pepe gets the paint on his stripes removed, and then she pursues him,
and he's dipped in perfume, so he smells good now.
Yeah, like, and I loved that little thing just because it changes it around and everything. But the character himself is he's basically demonstrating an era where society thought it was okay that men could own women.
Yes.
That is why it was okay that WB removed him. It's no longer, it's an outdated idea.
And that's the thing, is that a bunch of people, like the writers and the executives and stuff, said, this isn't a character that's aged well, we don't want him anymore, so we're going to retire him before there's a controversy. And that's a very normal business move.
Yeah.
But because of that, you blame cancel culture. Oh, people were fucking bitching about this. Nobody bitched about it. You guys are all more mad about the fact that he got canceled than anybody was mad about the fact that he was around. Same with the Dr. Seuss thing. Nobody cared about those books until the Dr. Seuss estate said these didn't age well, we need to remove them because they have racist stereotypes inside of them. And I agree that with some of the arguments that were made, my brother made a good argument, re-illustrate it. But the problem is, when you're re-illustrating it, people are going to be more mad about the fact that you're changing his art. So then it becomes the whole thing of, they wanted to just avoid that and said, you know what, we're just not going to publish them anymore.
Yeah, and there was also on the reverse end, when they made it a big thing, the SJW scenario was like, immediately like, no, everything about him is bad. And it's like...
and he was a racist person. No, he wasn't. The same thing with Walt Disney. Walt Disney did meet with Nazi officials. Actually, I have a whole episode about Walt Disney.
Then we can hold off on that.
Yeah, but my whole point is that these aren't people that were inherently racist. In fact, at their time, they were more progressive and they were found to be too liberal in their own time. However, they do have flaws from the time that they were there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hold a... This goes back to anybody who ever owned a slave. Like, it's really hard for people to, like, I don't agree with them having ever owned slaves, stuff like that. But in a time when everybody owned slaves, the treatment was terrible, all that was terrible. But
the societal belief was that it was okay.
Yeah, so at that time, it wasn't like they owned slaves and everybody was like, you're fucking terrible. They lived in a time and a society where they didn't view these people as people. And that's what the monstrous thing is. It's like right now with the indigenous thing and I was all sponsoring the whole, so Canada has Canada Day on July 1st, and I did sponsor the Cancel Canada Day thing because of the discovery. And it's weird that Americans, like that in America, we don't talk about it as much, but because they did find one school that had all these bodies, but there are a lot of giant unmarked grave sites, like mass grave sites of indigenous children found at residential schools. And I was all about, let's cancel Canada Day for this year. And that's the point. But everybody got into this frenzy of, if you cancel Canada Day, then you're just going to cancel Canada Day forever. No. But right now, Canada Day is the closest holiday that's there. And it's showing the colonization of the country of a people that were in there and weren't given a chance to become part of it. I'm actually one of those people who doesn't believe in we're living on stolen land. Like, as an indigenous person, I don't believe that this is my land and you guys all fucking stole it from me.
Isn't the idea that the land doesn't belong to anyone? It's...
Even that isn't part of my thought process. Like any other... So all cultures do this. The Romans, the English, even other natives conquered other people. And what you did was you assimilated them into your society or integrated them in. We weren't given the chance to be integrated in either Canada or the United States because they just kept pushing it away. And then indigenous people who did try to integrate, for instance, there was a lot of indigenous people before the Trail of Tears, which is something we'll talk about at some point as well, that owned slaves, owned plantations. But because they were an indigenous and the acts were against them, when the government decided we want that land and you're being too profitable, they took everything from you and then you were gone. Because you're still not technically a person and they weren't given the chance. And that's why I'm always like, the treatment of indigenous is very unfair because we were here and all that. And it's really hard to... So, like, I understand why America puts a lot of focus on the racism against African Americans. Because they were brought over as property, not as people.
And not to mention the Americans are mostly afraid that they're going to backlash when really they just wanted to be free.
Yeah. And they just wanted to be equals and be people.
Yeah.
Whereas on our end, it's more of, we were just treated like we were a people that they conquered, but, well, we're going to let you keep being your own people, but you got to be your own people over there. And anything you own, anything you buy, anytime you try to be part of our society, we're just going to take that away from you. And then you get to keep being free over there. Yeah. That's the problem. And up in Canada, it was, you guys get to be free and be your own people, but we're going to teach you how to be people in these schools. But we can't teach you because you're too old, so we got to take your kids from you and teach them how to be people.
Oof.
So,
yeah,
they're two very different types of injustices and monstrous acts. Like, it's very, very hard to do that. So that's where I'm like, if we have to cancel Canada Day for 1 year for people to realize that this was unacceptable and completely unnecessary, then why not? So when everybody got all upset that I was like, if you wear red or you set off fireworks, it's considered a bigoted act. People got very upset about it. In fact, my workplace got really upset about it. Like,
white fragility, whatever it's called.
And I remember I wore my orange for that day, and everybody was like, well, it's Canada Day, you're supposed to wear red. And I was like, no, that's not happening. Like, I don't believe in it this year. And then I also don't believe in the indigenous, we are our own nations things. I don't believe in nations within nations. Again, we are a people that were supposed to be assimilated that weren't assimilated. And our cultures are just as strong, but the problem is you can't live in a country and use the systems in a country, like the healthcare, and get like assistance and all that kind of stuff, but then say you're a completely different country.
No. That's the.
I'm not a citizen of your country, but I'll use everything from it.
That's the dumb shit of separation.
Yeah.
The whole separation thing.
And that's where I have an issue. Like, I love my culture. I love a lot of the people in my culture, but I don't like the idea of we're not you. We're not all a united people. But you should all stand in solidarity with us, but we're not part of you. Then there's no reason for us to stand in solidarity with you. So there's no reason for me to stand in solidarity with a Canadian or an American if I'm not a Canadian or an American. And there's no reason for them to have to do it with me.
Right.
So that's why that's where I get really thrown off by this social justice idea of we all should think the same way all the time, but we're not part of you.
Yeah, that's a big. It's actually funny. I've watched this TikTok, and it was one guy wore the shirt that said woke, and one guy wore the shirt that said racist.
Yeah.
And then every time they talked about stuff, they completely agreed with each other, because the further you get to the ends of those spectrums, on either end, it just sounds like the same thing. Oh man. White voice actors can't voice black characters? That doesn't make sense. Everyone should be just doing their own race and whatnot. Like, there's that sound of, what's the word I'm looking for? Segregation.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, you think you're working for justice, but you're literally having to point it out as a thing of race. So it becomes just as racist as the other end. I like to kind of... There's the term reverse racism, which is supposed to be like racist to white people, where it's like, well, no, if you're racist to white people, you're just racist to white people. There's no other word for it.
Yeah.
But I like to think of reverse racism as being racist by overcompensating in the other direction.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much more sense, right? Like, if you're by saying reverse racist, and you're someone who's trying so hard to overcompensate for that person being a race, you're pointing out their race more than ever, it becomes just as racist. So
part of racism is making that race not... Part of racism is making it that these aren't the same as you. They're not people like you.
Thank you for wording it better.
Yeah, so if a white person is standing there being like, no, we have to really push the black rights and we really have to push white people out of these roles that only a person of color can play a person of color, or only this person can play this person, or only that person can play that person, now you're no longer equals. It's not an equal opportunity anymore. It's actually... You've completely segregated them, like you said.
Yeah,
like,
you're what you're trying to do is the idea behind woke feminism. It's not a matter of equality. It's now about making yourself the dominance over the other person, which you don't want to be better than the other person, because when you become that person, or when you do that, you become the person you're fighting and hating. And that's just as bad. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to become the villain you don't want to defeat the villain to become the villain.
Yeah. But that also goes with the whole idea of, no matter what, if you're a hero in any way, eventually you'll turn into a villain. Because that message keeps broadcasting, and then eventually it starts to get into a different... It starts to evolve into a different kind of message, even though you're trying to do the same thing. So, and virtue signaling is a very finicky department, because what I love about the recent news is all the people...
For clarity, what is virtue signaling, just in case someone doesn't fully
virtue
understand.
signaling is being like, well, that's wrong, and making it super clear that you're saying that's wrong. So, men and women should be equal. That's a virtue signal. You signal it out for the world to know, and then so it's a statement you can make, and you can do that through your own actions or through supporting certain things, stuff. But if you are constantly just, hey, da 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 da, all the time, then those virtue signals keep going up because you're signaling that you hold this virtue. And it's a dangerous thing, because it's nice to have these virtues, but if you keep having to signal that you have them, it shows that you think about the fact that there's another side to this.
It's kind of like, actually, that's really interesting. It's kind of like what I was trying to say a long time ago about the new Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
They spent so much time trying to over-accentuate the idea that these women are better than the men, they're perfect in every way because women can't be flawless, and all that shit. And it creates a terrible message of, no, these women aren't perfect. People aren't perfect. How can I relate to these women if they're perfect?
Yeah.
I need them to have flaws, to gradually learn and overcome their flaws.
To develop a character.
Whoa, what a crazy concept.
To grow as people. Like, no, you are completely correct in that. And that's the other thing, too, is for us to believe that all of society is just going to fix itself by removing everything that we feel is wrong.
No, all we're doing is hiding it so we don't feel like it's a problem.
So that's just it, too. This whole idea of removing racist characters from books and movies and things like that is just as fucking racist as making an entire book about racism. Keep the characters in. Give them a character, give them a reason to overcome. Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood. He is a racist old man in that thing. I loved it. I loved it. I love when he pulls up to defend the... no, she's Vietnamese.
It's been so long, I can't remember.
To defend his neighbor, and she's surrounded by the African-American guys, like the gang, and they're getting ready. You can see that they have some bad intentions, and the movie sets it up that way, and he pulls up in his pickup truck, looks over, and goes, "What are you spooks doing?" I fucking died. And I was with my friend Christina, who is a woman from Barbados, and she fucking laughed so hard. But it's that whole thing. But the fact that he grew from hating these foreign people next to him to realizing that they're great people and they care about him just as much as he grows to care about them.
Like his sacrifice for that one kid and then gives him the car is so touching.
And it's such a growth moment.
Yeah.
And that's what you should have in your movie. Show a character who is that, but grows, or show him have a downfall. Show everybody turn on him. But don't just cancel him because he's not...
Yeah, the minute you remove it, you're, like I said, you're not removing... It's
You're hiding the problem.
All you're doing is treating the symptom. You're hiding the symptom, you're not treating the disease.
I don't even feel like you're hiding the symptom. I feel like it's you're trying to make it seem like racism's not a thing then.
Yeah,
so there's no character like, we don't have characters like, there's no racism, there's no characters like that in our books and movies. So we can't be racist because they don't exist out there.
And the worst part is, it's the people who watch these and call for it.
Yeah.
Like, the companies don't give a shit, it's all about the money, but these people call for it because they're like, oh my god, this offends me. This, like, I actually talked with someone who I told them about the Speedy Gonzales thing, right? And they were white. They still are.
Yeah.
But they genuinely, when I said, well, Mexican people actually love the character and all that stuff, and even after I said that, they said, Speedy Gonzales still makes me feel uncomfortable. Excuse me? Like, you're white. The nationality in question does not find it offensive, but you still find it offensive? That in itself is more offensive.
Yeah.
Because you think it's offensive more than they do.
Did you think that the stereotypes displayed on there are an offensive thing to that culture when that culture realizes that character's just poking fun at this character and enjoy the fact that he brings attention to then he's also, here's the thing about him too, he always one-ups everybody. Yeah. So he fucking wins in the end.
He's a hero. He's a hero character.
It's not like he's a dirtbag freaking, no, he's like an actual like friendly children's hero character.
Not to mention, like, he doesn't even have the negative stereotypical traits of a Mexican. Like, isn't this the negatives are like the oranges and the laziness and all that jazz? And no, he's a super athletic, fast, like,
and his cousin is more offensive than he is.
Yeah,
like I fucking like, I don't know. It gets me sometimes where I'm like, okay, I get where you guys are coming from, but like I had a friend who is very much he belongs to a certain group of people. He belongs to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And because he suffered prejudice for it, he feels like he understands all prejudice. And so he feels like he can understand. So we used to have staff that were from Trinidad or from St. Vincent and all that kind of stuff. He used to feel like he completely related to the racism against them. And I'd be like, you can't understand what that's like.
No, like, sure, you might have an intellectual understanding of A plus B equals C, but like, no, you can't know that feeling. It's not the same thing.
You can only understand so far. You can only understand so far on that, but so what he can understand is that because of his sexuality or his gender, it was a certain way, and he can understand that, but he can't understand what it's like to have a race, like to be a different race and have hatred for that. You can't understand that specific feeling kind of thing. It's just like they can't understand on his end. They can't understand, like what it's like to be on, like, hated on that. You can only understand what the prejudice is like, but you can't understand the full impact.
Yeah, like I have two points to bring up on this one. One very funny, one an actual thing from my history. But so I was in a play a long time ago, and the play was really like shittily written, like way back when. So the director had to rewrite it and everything. And there's a character with ADHD, and it was supposed to represent how this character could get better assistance and everything. But unfortunately, the director didn't have ADHD, but they were gay. They were part of the LGBTQ and everything. So they wrote the character like the person was gay. Like ADHD was something that was seen the way that someone was gay would look at it. And obviously they're super understanding. Like they're a person who is helping every support group to make sure that everyone is understood and everything. So she came to me and the other guy who had ADHD, and that line, that character was rewritten a little bit to be a better, closer resembling the problems with ADHD, rather than just feeling like written like a gay guy coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know. They didn't fully understand that feeling. All they had was the feeling that they had.
And even the challenges in that are different.
Exactly.
So, like, I'll even say it, like, the loneliness that you get from one or the other is very different from one or the other. The feeling of not being included is very different as well. Like, with one or the other. Like, an ADHD, you may, like, I don't have ADHD, so I can't understand that level. All I have is PTSD, so like I gotta run off.
I'm sorry, we're gonna one up each other.
No, all I have is PTSD, so to me I'm like, that's a very low thing. It's funny, the story of me even finding out I had PTSD was I remember after I got the tumors removed and went through my treatments, and then they were like, okay, so now you survived cancer, and I remember being like, okay, and I managed to get away with it without having to do any chemo, just straight surgery. Good to go. We're ready to rock and roll. It hasn't spread, so it's very benign. I remember being like, okay. And they're like, this is a very traumatic thing, so you have to, like, we would like you to see a counselor. So I went to go see a psychologist. Psychologist? Yeah, it's a psychologist. Yeah, psychiatrist is a different thing. But I went to go see a psychologist, and as I was telling her some of my story, and she was diagnosing some of the stuff, and we were going over things, I remember mentioning my grandfather, and like, I was like, yeah, blah, 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 and then I was like, and then she's like, well, you have to take a certain amount of time off of work, and I'm like, that gives me a lot of anxiety, because, like, I just can't, and then she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I just can't, I feel like I'm being lazy, but what makes you feel like that? Well, I was like, I hear my grandpa in my head, calling me a lazy piece of shit, and like, what the fuck are you doing? You can fucking do this, you can fucking do that, like, why are you wasting fucking time? Because my grandpa was a very hard man. Told me once in a fucking hospital that while he was dying of a heart attack that, you know, you're not a doctor, so why the fuck are you here? You should be at work right now. But, and then she literally looked at me and she was like, that's PTSD. And I was like, what? No, that's not post-traumatic stress. And she's like, that is post-traumatic stress. And she's like, a normal brain does not hear someone yell at them for taking time off of work, or hear somebody judging them for taking time off of work. That is a PTSD response. It's a trigger that you're missing work, so it triggers that. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, and then it's other things like me going to the hospital because my dad died because they mistreated him in a hospital. I don't like hospitals.
Right.
Never did. Because my dad used to go to a hospital all the time and it'd be all this stuff. So going to a hospital is a very big thing for me because I'm like, my arm could be half falling off and I'm going to be like, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I can reset.
Just a flesh wound.
Fucking.
Yeah, it's funny. I have I think I got hit with like the most minor of PTSD. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have thought of it as PTSD, but Mom kind of pointed it out, is a job I used to work at. I won't say the name of the place, but like the manager, I had so much anxiety dealing with the poor shit that the manager was and having to be the person to confront them and everything, that I actually can't enter that store anymore. Like, I genuinely get too much anxiety when I come near that store. Like, if it's the same store in another, like, city, I feel fine. But that one store is so associated with that person, I can't go in there without feeling the anxiety that I felt at that time. And that
is a PTSD's trigger, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, it's funny because I thought about that, but, like, even me dealing with that is very different than having to deal with ADHD. Like, because I know what my triggers are, and I know how it works, and I know how it's going to affect me. Lana always says this, she's like, I don't know how you just keep pretending to live a normal life. And I was like, because life is anything but normal, but like,
Yeah.
And then I researched murders on fucking like, I researched a kid who blows up an entire plane, but no,
you know what's a really interesting thing? Even though I came out as non-binary, I still, like, I understand, but I said that with quotations so people know.
Yeah, there's quotation marks here.
But I've never felt the prejudice and frustration that other trans people have gone through.
Yeah.
Because my transition is a lot more a very subtle thing. Like, throughout my life, I've always hated being referred to as a man, or even just the idea of gender being called as an excuse. Because that is just my entire life. I've just hated that. Even from way back when. So even being referred to as a man has been, like, so painful. But, like, I've never had to deal with any of the hate. Just the misgendering, basically. And so I feel like I want to relate.
Yeah.
But even in a group that I belong to, but I don't fully, because I feel like I haven't dealt with the same issues that they have.
So I kind of understand what you mean, because, like, as a pansexual, I've never just gone out and been like, I'm fucking pan. It's always been, like, back in high school or whatever, like, if I dated a guy, it was very low-key. A lot of people didn't ever know I dated in high school. Or I didn't really date very much in high school anyways, because my first girlfriend killed herself, and, well, I had to find that, and that was...
This is a dark podcast.
I understand why I have PTSD. Like, I can't walk into people's houses. I can't just walk in. It took me forever with Lana to just walk into the house. Like, she would buzz me into the building. She knows I'm coming. But because I have found my ex-girlfriend and a friend of mine both having committed suicide in their apartments, I can't just walk into people's houses anymore. I have to knock on the door. And if nobody answers, I move on. But, yeah, so with that, like, being pansexual, anytime I dated a guy, nobody really knew. And if I dated a girl, nobody really knew. And then when I got later on, after my first marriage dissolved, I dated a bunch of guys, I dated a bunch of women. And it wasn't until I got into a serious relationship that I would be like, okay, like, there was more of a broadcast of it. And most, like, all my serious relationships ended up very much being with females. And I think that there's a whole reason for that on its own. But, like, so I never had to feel the whole, you know, hatred of that a lot of people go through, or feel the anxiety of coming out and stuff. So it's always been, like, I understand entirely what you mean by it's just been a more smooth transition.
Yeah, like, sometimes some people just, even in their own group, for lack of a better term, don't even know that there's something outside of it. I once saw an interview with Lil Wayne or something like that, and he was asked how do you deal with this prejudice, and, like, what do you think it means when you see all these white kids in the audience? And he's like, I just thought it was the end of racism. Like, he spent his whole life in, like, suburban areas and areas where he's never had to deal with it, so he doesn't know, even though he is in that category that should have dealt with it, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where sometimes someone of a group just never had to deal with it. And I spend a lot of time with LGBT groups back in college and everything, so I always think, every time I hear the idea of prejudice, it doesn't click with my brain because I've never learned it.
The only prejudice I've ever felt from being a pansexual is I once hit it off with this girl, and we were having a very good time. Like, we'd gone on like 3-4 dates or something. And I have a thing for Jason Statham. I don't know why.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. That man, like,
accent, bald head. He fights sharks.
You seen him in Death Race?
Did I mention fight sharks?
Yeah. So, anyways, so I had a thing for him for a long, long time. Even how I work, I always was like, well, maybe I'm demisexual, because if I'm single, I have no problem looking around and enjoying everything. But when I'm in a relationship, I'm very focused on it, so I don't see the other attractiveness around me, kind of thing, which is weird. If somebody comes to me and is like, do you think I'm like pretty or something? Yeah, like I get it. I'm not gonna be like, nah, I just don't find anybody attractive at all anymore. But I just don't find anybody attractive, especially not you. But so anyways, we gone out on these couple dates, and I mentioned that I did, like, she was talking about going to see, it was some Jason Statham movie at the time, and I was like, oh, I really want to go see that. And she was like, yeah, she's like, this and that. I'm like, not to mention he's fucking hot as shit. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, he's a very attractive man. And then she's like, are you gay? And I was like, no, I'm pansexual. And she goes, what is that? And I'm like, it means that I'm not attracted to anybody based on gender. It's it's just a very open thing. Like, it's more about personality-wise and, like, certain traits, but I don't see a gender. And then she's like, that doesn't exist. It's either straight or gay. So you're gay and you're in denial. And I'm like, oh, honey, no.
No.
Like, no.
Sweetie, no.
Come on now. I would tell you.
It's, not to drudge up the past, but, like, even though I'm only more or less into women.
Yeah.
Because I never bring this up, because I genuinely like being sexually ambiguous.
Yes.
The part that makes me so sexually ambiguous is the fact that I'm not afraid to be like, that dude is hot. Like,
yeah.
I am not afraid to look at some guy's ass and be like, how does it sway like that? If I grabbed it, would I create marble?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what I said.
Were you chiseled out of stone?
Yeah, like, I does not bother me in the slightest type of thing. But, like, in terms of sexual attraction and, like, feelings and stuff like that, there is a part of me that goes, no, there's this, in the long run, I can't get past this point.
Yeah. That was my hardest thing, because I remember, I think it's because of my family or what, like, because of my grandfather and all that kind of stuff, of how he was brought up, and he was a very prejudiced man on his own.
Yeah.
But, just the fact that I dated mostly female beforehand, and then I remember the first time that I ever kissed, like, a boy at school, and we were, like, making out, and I was, like, starting to get to, I was like, can't do this, because it's a line.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was more of like there's a certain point that I was more nervous to cross it, where you just don't cross it, because it's not part of your character.
Yeah,
it's
like,
not part of you.
It's a very, like, fine line.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm talking about is, it's not even, and the fine line isn't even a matter of it being a line, just more so that it's like, oh, I know for a fact at this point I'm just not attracted.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain aspects of you that just
we're both naked right now, and I am not in this.
Yeah, like, I'm super shirtless right now. But, like, it's a touch thing, for sure.
I remember my friend Brian, when he found out that I was into guys a little bit, and he lived in the basement with me at my parents' house, and he was like, I sleep next to you. And I was like, yeah, on a completely separate futon on the other side of the fucking thing. I was like, don't flatter yourself. And he was like, well, like, you could just crawl over here. And I'm like, I feel like you're just wanting things, and I'm not into it.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, do you like every woman you meet? And he's like, no. What do you think? I like every guy I meet? And he's just like, well, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it does. Like,
so,
fucking,
are you into every guy you meet?
all the time, yeah. Everybody. No,
Lies!
Boom!
I'm going to use that to end this, because this is probably like 2 hours or so.
An hour and a half. But yeah. Ha!
Lies!
There's something right there. Lies. How are you doing this?
All right. That was fun. All right. Have a good night, folks.